Hello everybody and welcome to the studio, where creativity is shared and celebrated. I am your host, Michael Kedju, on this 13th day, I think it's 13th day of October 2020. I have to cheat and look at my notes because if not, I get going down these rabbit trails and you know where those lead. We never get back to the subject, so I'm just going to consult this every now and again. I say for the past 18 years, I've been using various types of plaster, and for the last 7 years, I've been incorporating these plasters into my artwork. After showing a piece, which I believe was this one, called Moonrise the other day, which has plaster installed trees, I was asked to provide a series of demonstrations regarding some of the techniques I use to create my paintings. So today I'm going to roll out the series Painting with Plaster, and the goal of this series is to provide a working knowledge of a few different types of plasters, to show how to properly prepare a canvas to ensure adhesion, to identify the tools that work best to manipulate the plasters, and finally how to finish the plasters with paint, stain, and or both. So initially my goal is going to be to break down these sessions into like 15-minute segments. We'll see how that goes. The first type of plaster though that I'd like to show you today is called Ovilla Finishing Plaster. Ovilla Finishing Plaster, and it's manufactured by a company in Florida called Faux International. I use set coat to prime this 12x9 gallery wrapped canvas. It's just a tinted set coat. I used it for another project just so that it's not white. Set coat, like Ovilla Finishing Plaster, is a product made by Faux International. It provides good adhesion, and chemically speaking, it's the right foundation for this plaster. Okay, so let's get after it. This Ovilla Finishing Plaster, I love it. It's a buttery consistency. It's just really smooth, and there's so many effects that you can accomplish with it. It's a 12x9 gallery wrapped canvas. Yesterday, and I applied the first tree so that you can see what it looks like once it hardens. And today I'll put the second tree on there. Yesterday I used these. This is poster board. It's regular old poster board that I cut irregularly, just with a, I don't know if I use scissors or an X-Acto knife, but that's what you do. Just be careful, cut those out, and you just don't want very straight trees. You want something that looks more organic. So today I'll just flip around, use the other side. And I think this tree is going to be a little more straight. See, this one I angled off a little bit because trees tend to do that. But this guy, I think I'll come up from here and just a little straighter. Blue tape, you can use 1 inch, 2 inch, whatever you've got. I'm out of 1 inch. I like 1 inch, but I have 2 inch, so I'm using 2 inch today. And this tree's going to be a little skinnier, so it'll recede a little bit. And taper it just like I did the other one. Skinny to not very much, because it is an aspen and they don't taper too much, but just a little. Don't worry that these flip up a little bit like that. That's okay. They're going to do that until you put on your first couple of passes of plaster, and that'll like stick them down. Okay, so before you apply your plaster, you need to make sure that you've got a putty knife, just a regular putty knife, and a little palette knife to manipulate this plaster, and a little thing of water, a little tub of water. I'll show you why in a moment. So you don't need a whole lot, particularly if you're doing smaller trees like I am here. So just get some on your putty knife, some plaster. This is Ovilla plaster. And as I mentioned before, you hold these down here. This will get you started. This will glue, if you will, it down a little bit. You do that in a few places. That's good. I'm going to leave that alone. Need some more plaster. When it gets to the top and the bottom of the canvas, just go ahead and run it up over the top and down over the bottom, past the bottom. That's good, leave that. Now as you see some cool texture things happening, leave them there. You're gonna work with that to make this tree look organic and believable when it gets to the finish. Now at times the plaster might drag a little on you. You want to dip into the water just to keep it nice and moist, but not an excessive amount of water. Oh, and always have a rag available. That's good. Leave that there. And I'll show you why in a minute. Excuse me. Whoop. So work your way on down. This is new to me, doing this instructionals, and there's not a lot of working room because I'm learning how to do it close up. Well, you got to be able to see what's happening. Again, it's horizontal. You're working horizontal. You're filling up that void we created with our stencil. And go, like I said, go right past the bottom. Smooth it out a bit. Now, let me scrape off my excess back into my bin. This is where the magic of manipulating starts. This next pass. Now that we have our area filled in, you dip your palette knife. Make sure it stays nice and moist. Hold those down, and you just barely run that over the top. So, not a lot. Take off the excess as you go. Excess plaster is not good. You want it wet. Just kind of run that across. What you're taking out here, what I'm taking out are any marks left by my tool where it doesn't look organic, it looks man-made. Take those out. So it's very light touch. Now it's okay to do what I'm going to do. It's necessary to take the stencils off soon after you apply the plaster. Do it carefully and try to do it in one pull. So you want to hold your canvas in place. Believe me, you do, because I've experienced pulling it right off the palette. I've experienced it pulling right off the easel. I knew what word I needed to use. So you pull that off, hold it again, pull this one off. Get those out of your way. Okay, so now you want to clean up the edge. That's the next step. You just take your knife and carefully run it down the edge. I know it's raising it on the edge. That's good. That's what you want. It's fine. Keep it wet. Both sides. Run down this side. I've purposefully gone a little heavy on these two trees, a little thick, because I want to show you one aspect of Ovilla plaster, and that is if you go sheer, really thin, you know, like a 32nd or less, really thin, and you can do that with tape, blue tape, as your stencil, then it doesn't have a tendency to crack as much. I wanted this to crack because I want that organic look in my trees. So go ahead and just pull the bottom off, pull the top off, and then if you need to, re-clean that edge up there, like so. Okay, now, I love this part. This is kind of fun. You wet your palette knife again. Now the idea is to try to give it the appearance of round, the illusion of round. And then we'll do some more of that with our shading when we come to painting and staining. So you just with the lightest touch, you want to pull over this edge this way and that edge that way to give it the round kind of feel and look. See what I mean? And as you go, make sure you clean that knife off. Okay, now you just touch it. Just touch that edge. Yeah, you can do a couple touches. Keep it clean, keep it damp. You pull it over. There you go. Pull it over. Now you're rocking, Mikey. All right? Well, there. So, excuse me, I'm going to go the other way, but I'm not good at this way, so I'm going to invert my piece and work this way. Or, excuse me, this way. You knew what I meant. Okay. Keep it clean, keep it wet. Yeah. Some places you may not need to do it. I hope you can see. Well, I hope I'm not in the way. Okay, now you can see that I went a little too far on a few of those, so I'm going to come back and just clean that edge up. Maybe I'm going to go back that way one more time in just a couple areas, like here. I need to bring it up and over. There. Here, same thing. That's good. I'm going to leave that. That looks like where a branch used to be. Now, make sure you clean your edge. Okay, so there's a little bit of an edge here that I'm not totally rounded on yet. Let me go ahead and see if I can't pull that around a little better there. Use the canvas, you know. You come at it level to the canvas like that. See, you can do that. And this tree actually is coming out better than this one. I haven't applied trees for a while, and there's some of the techniques that you get rusty about. So, this has been drying since yesterday, about 24 hours, maybe 30. And I wanted to point out the intricate detail here that it created for itself, because it's rather thick. See the thickness of it? And again, so it'll crack, and it gives you these wonderful places that stain actually is going to find when it's time to do the finish coat. So I think I'm going to leave it at that today. I will say this, that when you're doing a composition such as this, you have to apply the main features, which are the trees, first, or after your set coat, after your primer. You have to put them on first, and that is because, unlike a traditional painting where you might start in the background with the furthest away, probably the sky or the mountains, and then work your way forward in layers, you know, through the midground to the foreground. With this type of application, you need to put your primary subjects on in plaster and then paint to those. So the sky, if I do have a sky, which I probably will on this one, I just have to paint it in. I know that poses a little bit of a hassle because you have to work, you know, you know what I mean. If you painted skies or mountains or anything, you want to be able to just continually wash or, you know, blend or what have you, but you get the hang of it. The reason why I say that is because of the bleed that you just saw me clean. Okay? If you paint first and then you apply oil or acrylic and then you and then you install your trees or whatever it is in plaster, it bleeds like that, and it gets in the texture of the canvas, and you have to touch it up. And you know how hard it can be to touch up something after the fact, so you know what I'm talking about, to get the color matched just right. Thank you for taking the time to watch this first session in my Painting with Plaster series. I hope that it was informative and that you did learn something from what I showed. And as always, I hope you're creating something cool in your world. Peace.